Okay, this is just a video on some more complicated percentages. The first percentage I'm going to look at is 33 and 1/3%. This can cause a wee bit of confusion because what we've got is we've got the whole number part, the 33, and we've got the 1/3, and that's mixing essentially a percentage and a fraction. And usually we would think about these things, although they are the same, separately. Okay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just start off with a more straightforward percentage. So let's look at 10%. Now, percent, the word cent in maths relates to the number 100. So percent means per 100, which is the exact same as out of 100. So 10% is 10 per 100, and another way to say that is 10 out of 100. So I can write any percentage as a fraction by putting the percentage on the top, 10, and the over 100 on the bottom, or 100 on the bottom of the fraction. Now, what I can do with that fraction is simplify. So I can divide the top by 10, divide the bottom by 10, and that gets me 1/10. So when we find 10%, we divide by 10, and that's why we divide by 10, because 10% is the same as 1/10. And to find a fraction of something, you divide by the bottom and you times by the top. So we would divide by 10 and times by 1. Okay, we're going to apply something very similar to 33 and 1/3%. I'm not going to start off by dividing though. I'm going to have to do something a wee bit different at the start of this one. But I'm going to do the same first step. So I'm going to say it's 33 and 1/3 over 100. Because that's what it is, 33 and 1/3%. Percent is per 100, so that's 33 and 1/3 over 100. Okay, there's no difference between what we did with 10% there and what we're doing with 33 and 1/3. If I look at my easier example here, we were easily able to simplify this because we're dealing with whole numbers. Okay, we've got a whole number 10 on the top, whole number 100 on the bottom. We can easily divide by 10 top and bottom and get our answer. So what I want to do is I want to get that scenario which I don't have just now. So basically what I want to do is I want to make this into a whole number on the top. Obviously I've got my whole number on the bottom, so we don't need to worry about that too much. And what I'm going to do that is I'm going to use something called equivalent fractions. Now you've done equivalent fractions in primary school, so this isn't anything new. What I'm going to do is I'm going to be clever and I'm going to multiply the top of the fraction by 3. Now by doing that, 33 and 1/3 times 3, I'm going to get 100. And that's good because what I've done is I've made the top of the fraction, the numerator of the fraction, a whole number. Now, obviously, if I multiply the top by 3, I need to multiply the bottom by 3 as well. So that gets me 100 over 300. And that's a much better fraction to deal with because I've got whole numbers and I can also now simplify. Now, again, that's not something that we would usually do, but I'm doing it there just to get rid of the fraction and to make sure that I'm dealing with whole numbers. And again, it's a perfectly reasonable thing to do mathematically because I've multiplied the top and the bottom by the same number. So I've not changed the fraction. 33 and 1/3 over 100 is the exact same as 100 over 300. And now all I'm going to do to finish off is divide by 100. And that's going to get me 1/3. So, if I am asked to find 33 and 1/3% of, let's just say 60, that looks far more complicated than it actually is. I've just shown you that 33 and 1/3 is 1/3. So that's the exact same as finding 1/3 of 60. Okay, and to find a fraction of a quantity, you divide by the bottom and times by the top. So I would take my 60, divide by the number on the bottom, so I would get 20. Obviously 20 times the number on the top, 20 times 1 is just 20, so my answer to that would be 20. Okay, the next one I'm going to look at is 66 and 2/3%. Again, what we've got here is we've got a whole number and we've got a fraction in the percentage, and that can sometimes, again, make things look more complicated than it actually is. I'm going to start off the exact same way that I did with the previous two percentages. Percent means per 100, which means out of 100. So 66 and 2/3 percent is 66 and 2/3 over 100. Again, I've got the same scenario that I had before. I've got this mixed fraction on the top. I've got a whole number and I've got a fraction. What I want is just a whole number. Okay, the bottom's fine. I've got my 100 in the bottom of the fraction. That's a whole number. So again, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use equivalent fractions to generate a fraction that is the exact same, but gets rid of the fractional part of the mixed fraction. And to do that, I'm going to multiply by 3 again. Now, if I multiply 66 and 2/3 by 3, I'm going to get 200. Again, that's something that you could put in your calculator to check that. And if I multiply the bottom by 3, I'm going to get 300 again. So again, you can see by just using a simple concept, equivalent fractions, we have now got whole numbers on the top and the bottom. And again, just to stress that 200 over 300 is the exact same. It's not different. It's the exact same as 66 and 2/3 over 100. And what we can do now is simplify. Divide the top by 100. Divide the bottom by 100. And we can see that that's going to go down to 2/3. So if I was asked to find 66 and 2/3 of, let's say, 90, that is the exact same as trying to find 2/3 of 90. So again, this looks, put my percentage sign in there, this looks far more complicated than it is. 66 and 2/3 is just 2/3. So again, how do you find a fraction of something? You divide by the bottom and times by the top. So I take my 90, divide it by 3. This time we are actually going to have to multiply by the top, and we do 30 times 2. Again, you might not need up and down sums for this. So we get an answer of 60. Okay, now you may have noticed that in the actual percentages, so 33 and 1/3%, we actually have the fraction there. So you can use that as a wee reminder. 33 and 1/3% is the same as 1/3. Same again for 66 and 2/3. The fraction that it ends up being is actually in the percentage. So again, we can use that as a reminder as well.